This week, we watched a movie called Zoo. Well, I had absolutely no idea what this movie was about before we watched it. I didn't read anything about it. So I was definitely a little surprised when I saw what it was about. Okay, so before I get into the whole content of the actual movie, something I really enjoyed was the opening shot. For a while, I didn't know what I was looking at. I thought it was just like at first, I thought it was stars, actually, and then I realized it was it was a shot of, I guess, the camera going down like a long tunnel, and I thought that was beautiful. I thought it was such a interesting way to start off a movie. And when I think back to actually how the movie started off, I think it sort of reflects on the idea of the movie in a whole. You know, you're kind of watching this story take place that's like so like taboo, kind of. Well, it's definitely taboo. And you're kind of like don't know what you're looking at because you're looking at it from such fresh eyes, and I guess that kind of speaks to the beginning of the film and how like you're watching this happen and it's kind of nice to look at, but you don't know what's going on and you can't really understand it. Contrary to how much I want to say that I liked this movie, there was a huge thing that I had a problem with. I never knew who was talking. Like, I could clearly hear who was talking, but I couldn't put a voice to a name, which I think is such a problem. It made it a little difficult to follow the narrative of the film itself. I thought it was a big problem with the movie. You know, since everything, like, a lot of it was shot with, like, silhouettes and stuff like that, and everybody, like, their voices were all really similar, and the people, or the actors, or the real people in the movie, like, looked all very similar. I really couldn't. I really just didn't understand who was talking a lot of the time in the movie. I mean, the movie was still interesting, but I felt if it were easier to follow who's, I feel like if it was easier to follow, you know, people's voices in the movie, then I could have gotten a lot more out of the movie. And I think that I just think that was a huge flaw with this movie. Something that I learned in the Q&A session was that the director considered this kind of like a documentary hybrid, which I thought was really interesting. You know, I think documentaries at times can get really redundant, you know, with the style of like telling the story of how, you know, telling the story of someone's life. And I think that they really made this one extremely unique with the fact that, you know, they used real people, but it had such a like a cinematic, like, you know, narrative kind of movie feel. I thought that was really, really interesting. So overall, I really did enjoy this movie. I don't know if I'd watch it again because it was a bit intense, but I would suggest it to other people. It's a good movie to at least have seen once.